All right, we're back. Modern Relics Podcast. I'm Angel E's Lucky. Time to show you the show. What's up, dude?
Oh man, it's been a week. What a crazy week.
Yes, it has.
Yeah. How's your week been going?
Uh, Nuts as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah. Work is always pre-craziness because of our fiscal quarter stack. Right at the end of summer and beginning of fall is our busiest time of the year for the nature of my work. So things are ramping up and everyone's edgy and testy. But otherwise, around the house, not too much going on this week. We'll get into it. It is 108 degrees, so we're officially in summer. Hopefully it doesn't get too much worse than that.
I'm kind of, even though it's like in the 90s here, I'm kind of looking forward to going down and reliving some last summer's Vegas heat, because I'm actually okay with like up into probably about like 111.
Yeah, I'm a little less than that. This is about my threshold, like 105 to 108, and then after that it's just cartoon levels of hot beyond that. It's pretty manageable now, but I mean, recognize it's also 5:30 p.m. where I'm at and it's still 108 degrees. So it's like, that's the funny part. You know, it's hot when like you go from 113 degrees to a brisk 109 at night and you're like, oh man, it's not moving. So.
Well, and I remember like last summer when I was, one of the times I flew down there, and it was like, it's probably September-ish, and things had started to cool down off the 114 kind of level of heat that you guys get down there. And it was like in the 90s, like the upper 90s, like 97. And I thought after work, after I got done at the shop, I was going to come home and like cool off and dip in the pool. And I walk out and I'm like, I'm going to be cold. Like, I didn't want to get in the pool and get out into the air because I was like, it's going to be chilly when I get out of the pool at 97. When you acclimate to that kind of above 100, it's a different thing. And so here, 90, everyone in Coeur d'Alene is dying. If it gets above 73 degrees, they're like, we've had enough, bring back winter. And I get very frustrated with those people.
I think the worst part, more than the heat, which on a sustained period of time, it starts to erode at your life confidence. But it's the UV index. When your sun number is 99.99 for 3 months out of the year, and you're like, your arm sizzles as soon as you stick it out the window and you pull it back in, like, ooh, it's the instant sunburn that I think is way worse than just the ambient heat. But yeah, it'll be another week or so to adjust. That's probably, I was telling you off air, I've got a bit of a migraine building, and I think it's probably because we just skyrocketed in heat. Like, heat warning is in effect and all that. So it's like, it's here.
I got a sunburn. I got a sunburn a couple like not this Saturday, but the previous one.
Yeah.
And we'll discuss why that we didn't have a show on last Tuesday. But I helped a friend move. Desperate situation. She's having a kind of a rough go of it, and so we helped her move a 3-story house into a storage unit, and there was probably about 12 of us, which we had gathered at the last minute to help her. And I got crispy lobster burnt. I was wearing a tank top, and I had a tank top on after I took my shirt off, and it was bad. I was roasted, but now it's kind of settled into a beautiful farmer's town.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
it hasn't. I don't know. We had a not much of a highlight week over here. I will say we had a PR firm reach out to us about a guest that we ultimately said no to, but keep them coming, guys. Send us some folks you want us to talk to. We do love the engagement for sure. So thank all of you. But anyway, what's up with your week?
Well, let's talk about why I wasn't here on Tuesday, why we didn't go on air on Tuesday, and it was last minute. Like
Yeah.
I was ready to go. I had stuff lined up to talk about, but Tuesdays, that particular Tuesday is the Coeur d'Alene City Council week, like day of the month. So, and normally I couldn't care less about the Coeur d'Alene City Council. I get the highlights from Erin. She typically reports or goes down there and sits in and listens, but most of the time I don't care. This particular time it was a little different, and it was a little special, and I wasn't gonna go, but then what I ended up finding out and looking online is that due to a proclamation that my wife and me to some degree a little bit, I was kind of background support on it, but mainly our good friend Stephanie, who did the groundwork here, but really there was a couple of other key players on a bigger scale that were involved in this. We got a proclamation pushed through, and they proclaimed it at a city level, and it was one that we had, and I think we've talked about this before, when I was going over kind of the state stats of like what our legislative body ended up doing this session. But in this particular case, we actually took it to the groundwork and actually got it through on a city level, and we were trying to plan to spread it through the different cities within the county, and then the different counties through the state, and then trying to spread it throughout the country, because we really believe in this project. However, the word got out, and I had seen online, and it got out that day, and I'd seen online that there was a lot of pushback on it from particular alphabet organizations that were very unhappy that it was even being suggested, let alone proclaimed by the city, and said that they were going to come down and protest. Now, my wife being part of the spearhead of this, I figured, like normally she can handle herself. My wife's a tough cookie, and I've never really have to worry about her. There's also a lot of people in the community that really have her back and will watch her. And I dare the man or lady who decides to try to put hands on her, because that would be a poor move on their part. But at certain times, like if crowds are going to come, or if I think that there's an imminent threat, I feel like on a physical level, I need to be down there to make sure that
Probably
that
not
doesn't
best
happen.
to leave the wife on her ones. Yeah, for sure.
So,
This initiative, can you
also,
explain what it is?
yeah, absolutely. One of the other reasons why it was important is because I had been online kind of screaming at everybody that it was really important to fill this room. And if I hadn't gone down there, kind of want to look bad. So this initiative is called the Traditional Family Values Month. And you can go to tradfam.org and actually look it up. And it's a beautiful initiative that really just celebrates the nexus of what built this country by faith and by what is statistically known as the core values of what the best outcomes for kids and for the health of this country is based off of. It doesn't say that it is the only way. It just says this is the golden standard. This is what we should be, and it's actually in decline. The nuclear family, the mother, father, children, all as one unit, is the obvious and statistical best choice and most ideal concept for the growth and the health of the country. Keeps fathers in the family. It shows that this unit obviously produces on the back end healthier children statistically, children who contribute more when they become adults, and that overall it is just, and there's a whole list of statistics that when you go to the website you can see that it just plain makes sense to do. Now, it's not saying that people who are forced into situations like single motherhood or adopted families or anything like that isn't something that, but it also, this proclamation actually caters to that and says that these types of core families help those types of families.
Yeah.
And so, you get a lot of pushback from a lot of people. Well, I was adopted, or, we have stepkids. Is that not the same? I'm divorced. Why are we being left out? And you're not. That's not the point of it. It is
So
just
it's pro lots of stuff, but it's not anti anything, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100% correct. And basically, we figured that we're gonna celebrate 4 weeks, I think 5 weeks maybe, and each week representing something different. Mothers and daughters, aunts and uncles, brothers and sisters, grandparents, and and then at the end, fathers and sons, because it goes from Mother's Day to Father's Day. And what we want is for this to spread around the country, so that this is actually on a national scale, national level, that we can celebrate traditional family, trad fam, month throughout not just the state of Idaho.
Oh yeah,
but
already
around the
I see the detractors piling up, so makes a lot of sense now.
Right. So
yeah.
So now that's what we actually got pushed through, and thanks to Stephanie and my wife, they actually made the progress on this on a city level. Now, Senator Ben Taves, who's a dear friend of mine, he actually wrote this for the state and got it pushed through in the state level Senate. And then Joe Alfiere's, Representative Joe Alfieri, he actually ran it through the legislative side. So together they got it actually passed on both sides and signed by the governor. And so the state actually recognizes now Mother's Day through Father's Day as Traditional Family Values Month.
Nice.
But what good does that do unless it spreads down, because the cities or the counties aren't going to actually do anything with it. Right. So we need to have each city body and each county body actually adopt it and make a proclamation that this is something that they will be doing every year. Mm-hmm. So normally we get stonewalled. Now, Coeur d'Alene is the hub of all of the cities within Kootenai County. And Kootenai County has probably about 7 or 8 city states within the county. But everything revolves around Coeur d'Alene. So if they do it, then it's much easier to get it done in Post Falls. It's much easier to do in Hayden. It's much easier to do in Rathdrum, and so on and so forth. However, it's a huge hill to climb, because the entirety of the body of the city council and the mayorship of Coeur d'Alene is fairly far left. How that happens in this red state is a topic for another day. We don't have to get into that. However, that's the reality of the body of that situation. So now we've got a city council that has been stonewalling us, because we've actually been trying to push this through for the last 2 years and talk to the mayor and talk to them and they're like, okay, well then we're just gonna have to get it done on a state level. Unfortunately, they did this last session, but even so, we were trying to get this proclamation pushed through at the city level for 2 years. Stonewall, they wouldn't even talk to us. Sure. The last mayor, Hammond, and then Hammond, and then who was before him? I can't remember his name. I can see his face. And then none of the city council would even give us the time of day. However, we're in an election year, and so we've got 2 guys: the current mayor, who's appointed, Woody, and then one of the city council members, Dan Gookin, who we are not a fan of. We haven't been for a very long time. Like, I'm not a fan of Dan Gookin on a personal level. However, they're both running for mayor, and they know that the vast majority of their voting base has to come from the churches, or they're just not going to win. So they need to kind of cater to them a little bit. And we actually use that as leverage point and went, hey, now's the time, pass our resolution. And they went, okay, well, if you write it up, and to be fair, Dan Gookin had a year ago told Erin, when she went up for public comment, that, hey, after the city council meeting, he went to her and he's like, hey, that actually sounds like a decent idea. If you write it up, let's see if we can get it passed. nothing came of it from that point on until now, when we saw kind of an opening in the fence where we could actually get this thing pushed through. And it was a miracle that we got it through. But we filled that room. The proclamation was read. There was some cool speeches by Stephanie about what it really means, and it made the front page, top of fold of the local newspaper.
Just to acknowledge that the state passed something and that it is actually recognized because the state already recognized it, whether the city council said it with their mouths or not. That's literally what you guys had to go through just to get them to acknowledge that something went through at the state level in front of an open body of people during a council meeting.
Yes, absolutely.
So that would be me, who hates you with all my heart, going, crime is bad. I did what you asked. Go away now. That's literally all it like. What a joke. What a political joke. So I'm sure the pushback was a bunch of flailing and wailing, no doubt.
There was zero. But they didn't even show up. They couldn't get, I figured that they just found out that day. So they could not get organized quick enough to get people to come down there. But we filled that room. It was standing room only, 3 people deep. Mm-hmm. And it was a beautiful thing, a thunderous applause. Which really made the city council kind of pissed. There was a couple of them who were like, this is good, but we're glad that you said it's not harming anybody else. Thank you. But the vast majority of that city council sat there in complete silence, looking down and not wanting to have anything to do with it. But they didn't have a choice. And here we are. I'm sure they're going to try to push back on it next year. We don't care. We're coming harder next year. Especially if we start getting Hayden to do it and we start getting Post Falls to do it. It'll look really bad if they backtrack on it. So we're kind of positioning ourselves to make it impossible to get out of this, and actually renting out the band shell, renting out the park, doing full extravaganzas like they do Pride in the Park and stuff like that. We're going to have a family values in the park.
Got it.
And we're going to start trying to have this happen all over the county, and then try to spread it throughout all of almost through the rest of the state, and hopefully it gets picked up. Actually, Wyoming, we just saw today, Wyoming saw it and said, that's a good idea, we want to try to do that. So but the cool thing is that to talk more about it and better than I can, because they know all the details. Hopefully we've got unless anything else happens, which I don't think it'll be a problem at all. They've greenlit it. They're asking when, but hopefully next week we're actually going to have some special guests to actually kind of go more in depth on this and what it actually means on a bigger scale, what it means, and what it doesn't mean, and why people are misinterpreting it intentionally, and where the heart of it actually is, and what the plans are for the future of it. Because hopefully in studio or via Zoom, we haven't really figured it out yet, but Senator Ben Taves is going to be on, and Stephanie Fetzer, who is the on the ground in Coeur d'Alene kind of activist spirit of this. And I'm really excited to talk to them because they're both brilliant people, but also they are some dear friends that are true to the heart of the nature of what this proclamation and all the hard work behind it means. And I'm really looking forward to it. I hope you guys all tune in. So
me too,
because it'll be cool. So, but that's why I wasn't here last week, guys. It was because of that. It was because I needed to be down there to not only support, but also kind of protect my wife. And these are the kind of things that we kind of preach about, that,
Yeah, that was my first response to you. You're like, I can't make it because of this. And I was like, this is what we talk about every week. Like, time to go live it out. Yeah, obviously. Go forward. But I'm glad there was no tomfoolery or shenanigans at the local city council. Because I find it fascinating that you guys are not asking for anything. You're just asking them to read what's already been instantiated. And that takes a a movement of community effort to get them to read something that already exists. Like,
well, they see it as an affront to pride. They see it as something that, you know, a lot of the city council members go down to Pride and sit behind booths and do their
placate to the base of whoever young voter they want. Yeah, like, but one has to understand, even from a political strategic perspective, that while I don't like onions, there are plenty of other folks alive that do like onions, and we're all part of the same town.
I would go as far as to say you're an onion bigot.
Yeah, that's probably true. There are a few vegetables I hate more. It's not that I don't like onions, it's just that they're gross. But the whole as an affront, like, well, you have plenty of differences of opinion in a community that you ran for a position for or were appointed to a position of, in an extremely saturated community at that, in Republican politics. So that should be no surprise to you.
It should be a no-brainer.
It's not like you've asked them for the King County's budget deficit value of money to help throw a parade for it. You're just asking them to read this out loud, that, by the way, this is a thing.
Yeah.
That's great.
Which is the vast majority of this community. You know, what we're proclaiming is seen, but also statistically, it is becoming, on a national scale and even in the state of Idaho, the minority. A nuclear family is now the minority.
Right.
So it is to find people that are married with children that are the core center of that kind of concept. Though that's actually a shrinking number, and it is the minority. And what we're trying to do is show them statistically that this is actually the blueprint. Everything else is fine too, because circumstances happen. We understand that. And what we're saying is that this should be the thing that's emulated. And this group of people should be the group of people that actually help out the single moms and help out the people with adopted kids and the foster families and all that. That's something that we absolutely put in the charter of this, so that way they didn't feel like they were being excluded, because that's not the point of it. The point of it is to say we need to recognize exactly what the concept of the nuclear family is and what it does for the country and what it does for children.
But to some, you can only be inclusive to those they deem worthy of their narrative. You know what I mean? Like, well, we can disclude this because we're going to generate some sort of narrative that what you're doing is anti-something or hate speech. And for the rest of forever, acknowledging something that this country was founded on now means that you have to have a public face representative in front of initiatives like this and others to come that is faultless and flawless, because the second they drudge up some story, you know, some paparazzi style photo of them doing whatever in their personal life, it's going to be fuel for their fire on how hateful you are for supporting that, and those that organize this, how full of hate they are. And that's the sad part. That's where you throw, well, I thought we were supposed to be inclusive of all people. We touched on that a little bit about like why Christianity 2 weeks ago, and we talked about that more than anything else, right? Like, it's okay to be inclusive of all world religions except for that one, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Like, so it's obvious to me that it's very narrative driven, but other people pass it off as, well, it's just easy to read the headline. You guys are just haters, you know?
Right. But had this proclamation been made about like Muslim family values,
as it was in Seattle, right? They just passed a law to recognize 2 Islamic holidays in Washington State as state holidays.
Yeah, that's wild.
Like,
and Texas is passing, small towns in Texas are passing Sharia law. You know, that like this is.
Wait, did you say in Texas?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. In Texas, there's this, I think there's now 2 of them, but there's at least one of these cities that has been completely taken over, their city council, their county commissioners, by Muslims. And they have now kind of created their own city state within the state of Texas, and they are now pushing forth to make proclamations of law that that area is now under Sharia law within the United States. So
excellent.
and
Hey,
Texas,
Cynthia,
no
good to
less.
see you. Interesting times.
Yeah. Speaking of urban discontent,
Disarray,
disarray. Yeah.
unhappiness maximus.
Have you seen what's going
There's riots going on everywhere. And I say riots
everywhere?
factually.
Yeah.
That's not me putting a
Not peaceful protests.
it's not me putting a spin on it. Let's be clear, and I said this pre-election too. I'm a massive, massive, massive fan of protesting. I think it's awesome. If you want your voice heard and you want to exercise your ability to have free speech and to congregate and to show a dissenting
100%.
opinion, you are go with God and endure the weather, speak out, let a bunch of people know why you're doing it. It's awesome. The millisecond you throw a brick into a window, assault a federal agent, light a car on fire, that's criminal behavior. And it should fly in the face of everything that you are attempting to stand for by acting out like a child,
Correct.
throwing a tantrum, because that causes massive destruction and disruption to people around you that didn't deserve to be there, like the small business owner whose window you threw the brick through, as an example. Yeah.
I was one of them.
And this continues to occur in this country because we continue to do nothing about it, and it's now become a societal norm to generate content off of shit like this. And believe me, I was browsing several different platforms, Twitch, YouTube, of like content creators that do nothing but content creation as their mainstay job, flying in from places like Taiwan, for example, to throw up a stream about how bad things are in Los Angeles just to get the clicks and to generate revenue. It's a marketable thing. In fact, and I'm not really going to dig into it because I said no, but we were reached out to by a guest that has
I was
something
hoping
to
you'd bring this into the fold of the conversation. I'm glad you are.
it has basically owns a business that promotes a term that I'm getting familiar with called hydro, what is it called? Astroturfing.
Astroturfing.
And
Yep.
what this does is it's a company that pays actors to go to protests and tells them in lots of cases what to say. But this action,
pretty well too.
this action of rioting, it definitely drums up headlines, but it's for all the wrong reasons. In fact, there are some instances of people that say, yeah, I got paid to be here, but then because I was waving a Mexican or a Puerto Rican flag, the strategist behind this said, no, you have to be waving American flags because you want people to believe that you're actually standing with a country that you feel is being wronged, like the one you're in while you're being paid to protest.
Right. Even though, like, the president of Mexico came out and actually said, she was like, no, they deserve to be there and take it. Basically, this is what you know. So she basically encouraged an invasion and insurrection, and it's without a doubt what she said. And she's trying to backpedal it a little bit, but what she said basically was an act of war.
Yeah.
And so it was, our people are there and we want them to stand up against your government and against your peacemakers. And we want them to basically burn the city to the ground until they get what they want. And
and there's a way to do that accurately. Like, call me old fashioned, but I want people to really hate the Republicans and try to make a difference through the appropriate means of law passing, fair, due election. Right. Like, this is the experiment of self-governance that was written a couple hundred years ago that we're supposed to be living out. Criminal behavior, tantrum throwing, and the destruction of private and public property has been obscene. It not only diminishes your goal, but makes the country you purport to be fighting for a laughingstock on the world stage when its own citizens can't maintain order while they're trying to prove a fucking point. And
that's the point, is that it's bad for when our citizens break the law in that regard.
Correct.
But in this particular case, this is like the vast majority of them are not citizens. And so that's another key element here where that the argument is being made on a legal level that this is actually an invasion. If you aren't a citizen and you are here illegally and you are causing riots, that is an act of invasion and war.
Right. And the narrative and the societal thumbing their nose at this that has gone so far, like there have been people that you wouldn't know unless you follow like the Border Patrol's Instagram account, which I recommend everyone do because the shit they post is hilarious, that have done some obscenely heinous things to other human beings that were deported from this country. And if you don't follow that account, you wouldn't know about it. Nevertheless, we drug Kyle Rittenhouse, for example, through 2 years of a media circus and a trial and all kinds of shit. And I'm not saying they're the same. Wait a minute, I am. It's the exact same fucking thing. Like you can't like take one without the other as far as like the possibility of criminal behavior versus the proven criminal behavior and the due process that must happen when you put somebody like that on trial. It doesn't happen. And they just get deported. And in aggregate, it's a good thing. And we're seeing that to the point that the National Guard is now being deployed to Los Angeles.
They already have. They actually they've pulled in like
2 days ago. I think they started putting boots on ground.
They pulled in 700 Marines.
Yeah, absurd.
Like that is actually it's escalated to that. Now they're not engaging yet. They're basically holding back and guarding a like federal buildings.
Yeah.
In downtown, but they've got an actual general down there with them. Who's waiting for a phone call.
And even still, like the people that are just shitting on that, like someone bubbled up a photograph of, I think it was National Guards people. All the servicemen were like chilling with their rucksacks underneath their head, and they were all just kind of laying down on the lobby floor, like waiting for orders, just kicking it during some downtime. And then the caption was, "This is how Trump treats his soldiers. Like, can't even put them up in a bed." And so like the response from Dan Crenshaw, who I used to be a big fan of, I'm not as much of a big fan of now, but he still has some heaters, reposted it and was like, well, you know, when we deployed overseas, you know, it wasn't every time that we got to look for the Ritz Hotel when we put boots on ground and stuff. I'm sure they're doing just fine chilling out in the lobby at the, you know what I mean? Like whatever the case is. But to me, it's, like the fact that we're to this point is
as
gross.
If Trump was the one that Trump was like, don't let him sleep in a bed, don't give him a room, like you know, like he has any
right. Donald Trump himself was like, take the damn chairs out of the room too. I want them on the floor. You know what I mean? Like the absurdity and the circus around all this stuff. And because my mistrust has been growing and growing and growing since probably 2008, 2006 to 2008 up to this point, I always instantly go, well, what else is going on? You know what I mean? Like if we're all looking at this, then what else is happening somewhere else? But the fact that everyone thinks this is just fucking sport. You've got, do you remember Calvin and Hobbes?
Oh yeah.
The comic book. You've got Governor Gavin Newsom bouncing around like Hobbes on his tail with a microphone in his mouth, like, come get me, Trump. What? Blah, blah, blah. Like his state is eating itself.
Taunting Homan like he has any right to taunt that man.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you are so far beyond a caricature of yourself. You've got a unbelievable state deficit. You've got an unreal homeless problem. You have a all but extinct middle class. Your taxes are out of control, and you've done shit since the LA fires to help with any of the homeowners or the community members of those that were affected by it. And you're jumping around about this? Like, enjoy your podcast time, dog. I'm sure you've got a wealth of other things to worry about, but no, this is the point you're trying to make where, like, I bet you dollars to donuts, because it's happening in Washington, that if you talk to some of the police chiefs and the sheriffs of all around the state of California, that they're not huge fans of their governor abandoning them when they cannot keep social order in situations like this. And Los Angeles is going to just have to live through it again,
Right.
It's sick. And by the way, going before the show, just clicking around on YouTube, this is happening in Atlanta, this is happening in Chicago. It's everywhere. And for reasons that kind of remain unclear, other than Trump is bad, let's start burning cabs. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
And they're burning all of the what is the name of that type? There's a cab that's
it's a self-driving, the self-driving cabs. I don't remember the name, but
they're getting called, like the rioters are actually calling them in so that they can light them on fire. So now that company has like exited all of its cars out of the range of LA now, so that it like
and way off topic, speaking of electric cars, because I was going to get into this last week. There's another ship casualty at sea that was loaded up with a bunch of electric cars that started a runaway chemical lithium fire inside the electric car deck, burned the whole fucking ship down. They had to abandon ship in like life vests and get picked up by a nearby vessel. This is like the third or fourth one. Like, this is becoming a crisis now. It was en route, the one that I read the story about, from Canada to Mexico, and just went up in a blaze of glory and lost all the materials inside.
Melted an entire boat into the ocean.
Yep. Yeah, because dude, like, lithium fires are no damn joke. Like, if you ever wonder, guys, why you're not allowed to have your batteries in your check baggage and they have to be on your person, like, lithium ion batteries can continue to chemically react long after you put the fire out and reignite up to weeks after the fact. This is true. They can recatch fire in a runaway chemical like positive feedback loop, that they'll recatch fire by themselves long after you put flame retardant all over the fire. So to see this happen with cars and stuff, it's like, well, I mean, there you go. Anyway, so calling in the cabs and burning down these electric self-driving vehicles and others like them are, I mean, what are we doing? What are we proving by this? What point are we trying to get across?
It's not about a point.
It isn't.
Normally these things, they try to kind of put a point to it that is supposed to give us all a message.
Sure.
In this particular case, it's not that. It's basically just I think that what we're looking at is trying to ignite a civil war that Trump will have to deal with, is what they're trying to do. And this was the catalyst to it, and they're just using it. The immigration thing, the ICE thing, is what they're trying to basically, for lack of a better term, astroturf, which is exactly what they're doing, to create this crisis that he'll have to handle. They're trying to corner him into a bad move. They're trying to make it so that, because they know midterms are coming up, and they know that let's say, California, I think, has like 52 congressional votes, and it's all due to the fact that they count it by the census, not by voters, but by the census. So if you remove all the illegals, I laid out a
year ago. Yep.
If you remove all the illegals, they're going to lose a number of seats, quite a few, in fact.
Yep.
And they can't allow that to happen. And so they're going to pull every lever in order to maintain a modicum of in their minds, integrity in order to survive the midterms. And because they're not going to survive the midterms at this point, his approval rating is too high. The economy is getting better. All of these things, they're going to lose their asses in the midterms.
It's the at all costs, quote unquote, mentality that I find sickening, because
Which
this
leads
is
me-
at the expense of everybody else.
Yeah, they don't care. And this leads me into what's coming up on the 14th of June, which is just a couple of days away. It's Saturday, I believe, the 14th. And they are planning a massive, and you can look this up, like the maps are insane. I've never seen anything like this as far as like organization of riots or protests. And we've got two of them. And basically we track, it's called the No Kings protest. And on the 14th, across the country and across Europe and Canada and Mexico and everywhere else, they're having this No Kings protest in every city. And they have done an enormously good job of spreading the word on this. So I don't know what is going to happen on Saturday, but I'm hoping for the best, and that it's just a bunch of paid actor blue hairs that just stand on a corner for a little bit, and the whole, to get publicity and to get cameras on them.
Do you think the Groypers will support this riot, being that they're theocratic monarchists after all, and this is a quote no kings allowed type of protest that seems to deface their values even further?
They'll ironically support it and think it's funny, and the reason why is because it goes against Trump. And right now they're pissed at Trump for going against Elon, and then also going being super pro-Israel and not dumping on Israel.
Elon, the greatest American we've ever had.
Right. So they're like, bring it on. Bring on the race riots. Bring on all of it. It'll show everybody. Everybody will be pissed. Yeah, chaos fuel. And they want is for that civil war to show up, so that at the end of it, a theocratic monarchy can come out of
rise like a phoenix from the ashes, and we'll all hate the Jews together. What a joke. Do you think we could become millionaires then if we develop an app that we could sell to Google, where if you're navigating using Google Maps, it will tell you where pop-up riots are, that you could maybe just turn down a different street, similar to like construction area ahead kind of thing? And just duck all these riots.
Ways for riots?
Yeah, be like, bro, I can't make it to the fantasy football draft uptown because the No Kings riot's going on. I can't make it to the show tonight because a civic unrest kind of app where you can just avoid we track everything
stuff.
from poop piles in San Francisco to gas prices across multiple platforms. I think this is a winner.
Right.
You guys can just take that. I want $5 when you become multimillionaires off my idea. Register trademark. 2025.
But this is actually a very astroturf. No Kings is very astroturf. First of all, all the posters that are coming out with the Statue of Liberty on it, and they've made the correct move and realized the error of their ways in the past, and they're using a lot of American iconography. Yeah. So they're using flags, and they're using to retake back what they think is America, right? So they're being smart there. However, the person who's been paying for all this is I can't remember her name, Susie Walton or whatever, from Walmart, the Walmart family, and they're the ones funding all of these No Kings riots. And it's due to the fact that Walmart got in a spat with Trump about the tariffs, and he said, "Suck it up. You made billions upon billions of dollars last year alone. You're $1 trillion company. Like, you can handle eating some of the tariffs until we get this stuff figured out." Of all companies, like you and Amazon, you guys are the ones that should be able to handle some tariffs. And they were pissed, and so she started funding this No Kings like fiasco frenzy that is going across the entire country. But we noticed a pattern here where they've got times set up.
Oh, I'm looking at the nokings.org right now as you're talking about it.
Right. And
front
it's
page.
12 to 3 here, and then they're going to Sandpoint from 4 to 6. So they're busing
training seminars,
all of these
dude.
people. Yeah.
No Kings Day Town Hall, Tuesday, June 10, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a Zoom.
Today.
It's a Zoom.
That's right now.
Know Your Rights training, 7 p.m. Training will prepare you to show up safely and confidently at this, quote, nonviolent action. Whether you're marching, rallying, or supporting from the sidelines, you'll learn how to protect yourself, your community, and stand up for your rights. It's also offered in Espanol.
Well, naturally.
Reserve su puesto. Okay, so No Kings hosts update call No Kings Marshal training. You get to be a marshal. They're calling for veterans and military families. Not sure that's going to get packed. Event attendee pre-mobilization mass call. Spread the word stuff. Yeah, they're there's a contact.
Their maps are crazy.
Yeah, they're ready to go, man. NoKings.org will tell you all about where to avoid. A toolkit. Hang on now. What is this? They have an entire document. They have a several 100-page document. Why we're mobilizing, hosting your own No Kings mobilization, core principles, resources for hosts, security. Oh, it points back to the ACLU.
Of course it does.
Insurance. Hey, yeah. If your group needs special event insurance for your event, consider these insurance providers.
Right?
Wow.
Unbelievably organized.
There
now, where's all this funding coming from? Now, this,
partners, it tells you. I'll click on it. Holy shit. 501, 198 Methods, Black Voters Matter, American Humanist Association, the ALCU, Bend the Arc Jewish Action, and Bend the Arc Jewish Action of California, Blue Wave America, Common Defense. There are hundreds of sponsors.
That actually might get them in some trouble. The Jewish sponsors, because this is also like a pro-Palestine kind of movement too.
Yeah,
so like,
Pride at Work, People for the American Way, Public Citizen, Third Act Colorado, UE, the Washington Conservation Action. That's a state-run organization, isn't it?
All of these are NGOs that are all filtered in money from black money, black backwater money, and
Families Power, Women Forward,
George Soros Foundation. Like
this is staggering, dude.
Yeah, I mean it's enormous, and there's an enormous amount of dark money coming into this.
The Federal Workers Against Doge, well, they mobilized a little after the fact, didn't they? It's all right there. What a weird.
This is all.
What a weird way to support rioting.
The last little remnants that they kept from the USAID funds, this is where it's all being dumped into right now. They're like, we're not getting any more money. Let's throw it all in and do a huge thing across the nation. And that's exactly what they did with the USAID money. This is George Soros money. And then guys like the one that contacted us, who they probably filtered through and hired him to go, hey, find us actors, find us protesters. Here's a bunch of money. And he's probably one of multiple different organizations that does this exact same thing. Yep. And it brings people to small towns, rural areas, because it's easy to start a riot in LA or in Seattle or whatever. You're just going to get the organic nature of it for the most part. You probably need to ship some in to really light it off, but you don't need that many. But in like smaller cities or rural areas, it's not easy to light off a riot. It's not easy to get a whole bunch of protesters that look like a big mob. Like even here in Coeur d'Alene, the last couple of weeks, we've had these protests.
Yeah.
And they're all on the side of like 95 and Apple Way. Now, I know the demographics of this area very well. And I know that to mobilize enough people for a protest, you've got in this area demographically, you know, if the left and the Democrats want to put on a protest on a good day, on a really good day with a whole lot of planning, you're going to get 100, maybe 200 people max. Now, the protests that we've been seeing recently, there's 800 to 1,000 people on the side of the road. It's going all the way up 95.
It's
and
like what? They're 2% of your aggregate population.
Yeah. So like, and then across the way in the Pizza Factory parking lot and the Leon's place, there's buses with Washington license plates on it and a bunch of license plates on Washington license plates on cars, Oregon license plates on cars. They bust them in and they're paying all these people. These people didn't even know why they're there. They just look the part and they're getting paid. But they probably had never stepped foot in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho before until that day. And this is happening a lot. That's astroturfing. That's what this whole protest is to make it look like the country's really pissed. When in fact it's not. But man, they will astroturf it.
It's not.
So,
well, I'll be probably not going. Unfortunately, I think my calendar on Saturday is going to be full.
I don't think you got the invite anyway.
I didn't. I will check the inbox again at the conclusion of today's broadcast. But I think they misplaced it. We'll say. But I think it's worthy of talking about this Trump v. Elon stuff because the clickbait titles, I've even had people reach out to me and be like, what's this all about? Here's another situation between these two guys where they're obviously it's some sort of ego pissing contest online about you did this, I'm going to do that, you did this. And I wonder, well, what else is going on behind the scenes if these two are, well, it's because, and I've heard this from people in personal conversations face to face, well, it's because Elon was fired from Doge and wait a minute. No. He was on a special assignment where his employment under contract, a guy that's pretty good at reading contracts and would have known that for like 100 and something days, I think.
Yeah,
all his employment was allowed down as a special employee of the government, and they did all their work, and then he's gone, and But now seeing those two tweet at one another it's a dick measuring contest, and I don't understand the root cause of why it's gone as far as it's gone between them. Where Elon's throwing stuff up about well, Trump's. The reason we haven't heard about the Epstein files is because Trump's in them and blah, blah, blah. And then you get we knew it. And then you get the other guys that are like, it's a well-established fact that Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump knew one another and they've talked 24 times. Right. He's been on the plane 7 or 8 times. What's unclear is whether or not he went to Epstein Island and partook in human slave trading and all that bullshit. So what's going on with all this? How do we break this down, man?
Okay. First of all, I think it's all theater.
I think
that Musk knows that he wasn't on the plane going to the island. The picture that he put up was from the 80s when everyone knew that he had partied with Epstein at that time. He admits to it, but that was before he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago and broke ties with him forever.
Yeah.
All of those things, right? So it was like nothing that everybody already knew all the stuff that he brought to the table on that, which Musk knows that. So, but I think it's intentional that they're doing this. I think that what they're doing is, there is a power play, but it feels fake. It doesn't feel real. And it feels as if these guys, because they've already made up, they're already hanging out again. So I think it was for a purpose of creating a narrative so that certain people in the media, certain people on a particular side of the aisle latched onto it, looked at it, and went, "Oh, this is it!" Like they're going, they're going after each other. I think that there's a lot more to it than that, but I don't see anything significant in it at all.
Well, I don't either. Like
Elon's taken stuff down already. Like all the stuff he put up, he already took down.
I'm not a big fan of you. Well, let me just fight you on that one for devil's advocacy. I mean, Elon said on Joe Rogan that if he spoke out any more about the shit that he was finding at Doge, that someone was going to assassinate him. So with the full weight of the evil Trump organization coming his way, it's no question at all. He was pressured into taking it down on threat of his life. What I don't understand, I'm joking, obviously. What I don't understand is why they would put up such theater if there was not some sort of disgruntlement behind it that was rooted in truth. Because I'm not a Trump fan as a human being. I never really have been. I'm a huge fan of the policies, and I've been pretty outspoken about that.
I think he's funny at best. Like he's funny, but it's not a guy that I would want to like probably spend time with.
He wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't the best of times when he was just doing media stuff and whatever. Just not the most presidential guy. We'll say. I've spoke about all these things on this pod before.
Yeah,
but I don't get what they were driving at, because even some of us would go, well, shit. I mean, Elon did see a whole bunch of stuff while he was at Doge that nobody else got to see. I wonder if there is some nugget of truth. So if they were playing that up as theater, just to get those opposite aisle to try and latch on and say something even dumber they could pin against them, I don't understand what all that was for. Because, I mean, this went on for like 2 weeks or whatever. The threatening to decommission the Dragon rockets and the, well, that's why I'm stopping all the evil electric cars that Elon wants everyone to have to drive and blah, 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 blah. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, even if it is a psyop to some degree for misdirection. Perhaps we'll find out. I doubt it, but it just seems like it was a big waste of time.
Yeah, and the stuff that Elon threw out on Twitter about like Epstein's Island and stuff like that, don't you think that if there was any incriminating evidence on Trump during the entire Biden administration, that they would have just yanked that out and threw it right in his face? And
that this would have come out long before now with all the trials he was put on, even in New York and all that stuff?
All of it.
Yeah, I do. But every time something gets declassified where I furrow my brow at a former leader and go, how did we not know this much sooner? You know what I mean? Like, all the evil shit they're doing and all the money they're burying. And I don't know. It's hard for me to make heads or tails of that stuff, but I'm always disappointed after the fact. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, do I think that we're going to see something come of this? Yeah, I think this was preparation for something else. I think that they were setting the stage, if you will. Like they needed this to happen in order. And I think come a month to 6 months from now, we're going to have an episode where we're like, oh, that's what that was about.
Yeah.
And I think we're just too in the weeds on it right now for us for anybody to really make heads or tails of what that was about. Or it could have just been the two biggest egos on planet Earth duking it out because they were having tantrums. And that could,
which we've also seen before from both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, it's not necessarily out of the question for any of that.
Well,
so
it's in question. Our government once again.
Oh, is it time? It is time. All right.
Time for Conspiracy Corner this week, friends. Lucky's got a good one.
I do. And it's kind of, the go-to, the OG conspiracy theory. And
it's what we started our podcast on, episode 1, actually. Aliens.
Aliens. So, I have made it very clear throughout the years that I personally do not believe in aliens. I come from a biblical worldview. I think that we're the only creation. I don't think that they're aliens. I do think that there are entities, interdimensional entities that pass themselves off as aliens, but I think they're demonic in nature. However, man, I have seen every episode of Ancient Aliens.
Sure.
I have seen every alien movie that comes out. I'm obsessed with them. I love them. However, I don't believe in them. Same with ghosts. I don't believe in ghosts. A lot of people find that weird. I don't care. I don't believe in ghosts. Like, the crew gets all spooked out at the shop when some noises happen, and they're like, "Nope, shop's haunted." I was like, "You guys, no one is haunting an old Domino's. I promise you. Like, this was the Domino's pizza. That's it. No, we're not buried on an old, Indian burial site. Like, we're not sitting. We don't have a tattoo shop that is haunted.
Some of
their
their pizza toppings are haunting.
Yes.
My take on the aliens piece, and I've said this for a long time, like if I were to say confidently that there's no life outside of Earth, mathematics is not on my side. What I mean by that is if there's some single-celled bacteria someplace that could be classified as life outside of Earth that's, quote, alien in origin, I will not be shocked. Cool. Maybe there's some microbe that's a single-celled organism living in an asteroid in the Andromeda Galaxy that one day we'll get to learn about. Sick. But the little green men, I'm with you. Every other thing you just said, I'm on board with. So please continue.
So Tom DeLonge is going to be very upset this week.
Yeah, Tom.
And
where are you?
Where are you? Tom DeLonge is having a bad week. And I don't know what the next Angels and Airwaves album will sound like. It
needs to include a stunt with Katy Perry. I'll tell you that much right now. He just needs better PR.
Yeah. Because the Great Hoax in the Sky, AARO, which I'm not really even sure what that is an acronym for, but report shows many UFO conspiracies. Not all, but
All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office is what that means, by the way.
Okay. Shows many UFO conspiracy theories were disseminated by the Pentagon to disguise secret weapons programs.
Yeah.
So we've had a bunch of the last couple of years, like a bunch of revelations on a governmental level where they've had full panels of high-level government officials sitting in front of a catalog of the who's who
in Congress and stuff. Yeah,
in Congress, right?
Yeah.
And then sitting there going, yes, aliens are real. Yes, UFOs are real. And they did it during like the COVID era mainly, and everyone's like, yeah, we don't care. The world's imploding on us right now. And you had your diehards that were freaking out. They're like, why does nobody care? Like, they're just admitting that this is all real. And then you had the rest of the population. They're like, either they went, yeah, we already knew. It's good to hear that they are admitting it now, onto regular life, or I don't believe them. I still don't believe them. And I'm on to regular life.
Yeah.
Like, the splash it was supposed to make wasn't as big as you would expect. And I thought that. I was like, wow,
surely in some circles it was, but like to society at large, it was kind of a Yeah.
So this coming out now kind of disrupts that, and I don't know if it's due to a new administration kind of peeling back the layers and kind of going, oh, we found this report in this file, and dishing it out to the public and going, yeah, sorry guys, you're not going to get beamed up anytime soon. You're not going to get swept up off to Mars.
Here's what they say too. In 2024, the AARO produced an in-depth report about the phenomenon, showing that many of the most disseminated UFO theories, including the one about aliens being kept at Area 51 in Nevada, were simply fueled by the Pentagon. This was done according to the report to provide, and this is all bolded, to provide cover for secret weapons programs. which is kind of what we thought. Now, what those are and stuff, they don't get into, but I imagine lasers and stuff are involved.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine there's quite a few drone level aircraft that are drones like we haven't seen yet as far as the public is
I mean,
concerned.
shoot, they just did that big drone attack, the Ukraine drone attack, which was pretty mind-blowing because they were tethered. They weren't wireless drones. They actually had fiber optic cable in them, so they couldn't be like EMP blasted out of the sky kind of thing.
Yeah.
The hundreds of thousands of miles of fiber optic cable that is now left in the wake of that attack is obscene. Like, even wildlife are like starting to use it to create bird nests and stuff. Like, they're not going to get rid of this shit forever. And that's not even a secret weapons program. That's just one they did recently, and it just wasn't really thought out long term.
Right.
So next time you have Ukraine government officials, particularly those that were pro-Ukraine war, bitching about Greenpeace, hold them accountable for all that fiber optic cable they left all over Eastern Europe. Just throwing that out there.
But then you're also looking at different types of like sonic weaponry, satellite weaponry, hologram weaponry, stuff like that. That all of these different things that they've been that would kind of indicate, or they could hide behind the shield of like UFO activity.
Yeah,
Stuff in the water and the oceans that is being reported, anything having to do with HARP, anything having to do with any of these other kind of concepts that kind of all fold into the UFO narrative. It looks like a lot of that was just cover for these type of weaponry that that they've been working on, and they needed to be able to keep the population at bay. Now, does that explain some other things, such as like I just watched a documentary and watched a whole video, and I think Joe Rogan recently talked about it too, the real crop circles, because there's a bunch of them that were faked, but then there's some of them that were real, and that's weird. And then there are people who swear up and down, eyewitnesses, that regular normal folk, a lot of pilots that see things. What are they seeing though? Like, what, like, are they just seeing military stuff that got misconstrued? It's like if you brought, Elijah from the Bible and he tried to explain what a drone was or what a plane was, he's going to say it was a fiery chariot, I've actually, it's out of perspective.
Well, we got the hats on. I've actually thought about that a lot. Like, when you really dig through Revelations and like try to rationalize what was described in like the post-apocalyptic end times era of those passages, iron scarabs and stuff like that. Like, I've always equated to, well, they could have been, if this is a truly prophetic piece from thousands of years earlier, they could have been referring to visions of like tanks and aircraft and stuff like that, and what we would perceive as a modern war. Same as somebody around the campfire however long ago said, I'm pretty sure I saw some demon-like creature drinking the life force out of somebody else's neck, and then suddenly the myth of vampires were born. Like, who knows what this guy saw, but that's what he was able to rationalize it with the tools of the day. I've always wondered that. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I wonder if that's if there is some sort of a millennia later, some sort of rationality that I could bring to those passages, because I've always struggled with what they meant by those.
Well, like, for instance, Revelation speaks to, at the end of the tribulation period, people are going to be trying to hide, and they won't be able to, because there's these enormous locusts that their sting or their bite will actually put you in a state of absolute agony for like a really long, very particular period of time.
And you thinking shock trooper drones?
I don't, but yeah, I'm thinking drones. I'm thinking we're looking at like the robotics from what's Boston Mechanics or whatever, Boston Robotics, the dogs and stuff.
Oh yeah, Kawasaki made one. Kawasaki Heavy Industries made one. That's like a motorcycle you can ride, but it's like a quadruped.
It's like a horse.
Yeah.
I saw that. Yeah. But
well, made one. It's a proto, and it doesn't work yet, but the designs seem to be promising. But yeah.
and it's got all the capability of finding humans as you know, with every type of you know, infrared or whatever the case may
Right.
be, any type of sensory equipment, and being able to just track everybody down, and you're not going to be able to hide from it. And then it has a sting dart, you know, that basically enables you, and then you get drug off, right? That's where my mind goes when you read Revelation, is that it is technology they couldn't explain.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Missiles and such, you know, that very similar to,
It all leads
you
to
know,
us disappearing in Mr. Creedy's black bag.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah,
So it's not real. Unfortunately, this conspiracy corner is a big one because apparently
yeah,
there's reports out there that say now the Pentagon was just fueling the panic fire.
right. And this also, you know, we have to kind of rule in to, like, once more details of this comes out, think about like all of the stuff that's happened over Mexico, or all of the stuff that's happened over Eastern Europe, or anything like that, that you see videos of all these UFO stuff or whatever that happens. It still doesn't say that wasn't U.S. military in those countries doing those things, or other countries doing those things.
Yeah.
So like, I've always been skeptical of UFO culture, although I'm like wildly fascinated by it. My favorite thing about Ancient Aliens, and I tell Aaron this all the time, is that everyone will dismiss and poo-poo the Bible. All of the stories are fake. They're all anecdotal. They're all like stories and not real and all that. Unless you remove the word God out of it and put aliens instead, and all of a sudden that whole show is built off of biblical text, and it's all true as long as it's aliens and not God.
Yeah,
and I will sit there and cackle in bed and go, okay, like, oh, now it's true, guys. All right. So,
yeah, I've long thought that the biggest socially acceptable narrative that's been brewing forever and ever since the 50s and 60s on this alien shit is that it would be the easiest cover up if the rapture was a real thing. You know what I mean? You're just like instantaneously, if a bunch of people got abducted,
100%.
the way
That's
it's
exactly
just,
what I've always thought too.
yeah,
That, yeah, for sure. Re-education from our overlords up, you know, that were like, these ones just didn't get it.
from the brilliant minds of the Department of Education.
Right. So,
All
but yeah,
right.
it's one of.
Well,
But
shit.
yeah,
Conspiracy Corner. Now, two reasons I have to take this off. One, Conspiracy Corner's over. Two, it's so hot down here. I actually think my head's cooking under this.
it's cooking your brain under there, huh?
Bro, I need to be basted here in a second and rotated. All right. We got some pop culture this week.
We do.
So you got reviews. You got a whole franchise of movies to review, plus a series. I saw a movie as well. Where do you want to start?
Let me do the franchise really quick because it won't take that long. So,
Sorry, Tom.
You inspired me to because you saw the new Mission Impossible movie.
I did.
Right?
Yep.
And you loved it, and so it inspired me because I realized I hadn't seen anything past the third one, and it had been a while since I'd even seen the third one. My wife tends to put Mission Impossible 1 on loop, and I like
best cast.
I'm bored of that one now because I've seen it so many times, right? So, and I'd seen 2 a bunch, and so I revisited 3 just to catch up to where I
is that the Philip Seymour Hoffman one?
It is, yeah.
Owen Davian. He is the greatest movie villain in that one. Jesus.
Oh yeah, just ice cold.
Yeah,
and it's great.
Yeah.
But I hadn't seen anything past that. And so I took the time and I just marathoned them, and I watched them over the course of like 4 days or so, and just watched. I didn't realize that the one that you watched is actually number 8.
It's 8. Yeah.
There's 8 of them, and that 7 is the first part to 8.
Part
that
1,
it's a 2-parter. Yeah, I did not know that either. So I had a blast.
They're great.
Especially with especially with the last couple of them, that really you could tell that the writers were conjoining the stories in an arc that is leading to this last movie, where they're not just standalone movies where, you know, Tom's in another situation and, you know, Simon Pegg's got to come and help him and Ving Rhames has got to come and help him.
Far cry from his days as Marcellus Wallace, that Ving Rhames.
Yeah, but there's a little bit of that where you can watch them independently and still enjoy it, but there's an overarching storyline that was really engaging. But one thing I did realize is that there is absolutely a ridiculous chase scene in some type of very narrow city.
Yeah. Tom Cruise will always run at top speed.
Exactly. That's top speed.
Every time.
Every movie, there has to be at least a 3 or 4 minute scene where he is running at full speed.
I don't know why Cruise Wagner Productions and of late, the director Robert McQuarrie loves that long, steady shot of Tom Cruise at top speed hauling ass on foot, but they do it every single time. And you're like, there it is. There it is.
Yep.
But the practical effects are mind numbing. That's why I was joking. Like, I believe it's on Tom Cruise's wish list to care so much for the film industry that he dies during one of these productions. Yeah. Because he's doing all of these things and he's not getting any younger. In fact, there's in one scene, I don't remember which movie it is, but he like leaps from building to building after the big long dead run.
And he breaks his leg.
And keeps rolling. Like
it keeps rolling.
Runs through the end of it on a broken ankle, and it delayed production for like 13 weeks or something while he healed. But like, I love them because they're not James Bond. You don't have the like cartoon bad guy. There's like some, like the later ones, you definitely get into some out there shit. You'll get there when you see the newest one, but it's enough of the like, okay, so it was part of a team effort at first, but like we're following Ethan Hunt's entire career. Like we're centering all stories around this guy for obvious reasons that aren't obvious yet, but they become obvious over time. The practical effects are sick. The suspension of disbelief is always fun. It's my favorite film genre in history, and it's not close. And you can throw away a couple of hours and honestly be wowed at the level of shit that they were able to pull off. And frankly, most of the casting choices are mint. They're really good at the roles that they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple like, okay, that guy's a little whatever, but in large part, they really do a good job. It's fun.
I really had a good time with that.
Yeah.
And those are the quintessential popcorn movies. Those are the quintessential, like, just turn your brain off just enough, but like it still makes you think a little bit, but they are just fun. That's fun movie making. And I think Tom Cruise, of all people, and the team he's built around him for these and for a lot of his other projects too, he recognizes what people want to go see movies for.
He does event movies. Yeah.
Yeah. And I dismissed these movies because they just, after the first couple, I was like, okay, I get it. And I thought it was kind of a Fast and Furious thing where we were just getting.
And in some ways it is. Sure.
Yeah. But in this particular case, no, they really put a lot of time, energy, effort, and heart and soul into these Mission Impossible movies, and I love them. And I'm actually looking forward to the next one. I might go see it in the theater if I can find the time. If I had the time right now, I'd go see the new one in the theater because I enjoyed this so much.
The level of let's step it up to unparalleled heights for practical effects in this last one far supersede anything you've seen, maybe an aggregation of all that you've seen as far as this last one goes. It's what they did in this one was bananas. And you saw him jump a motorcycle off a cliff and then pull a ripcord. They shot that 5 times. He did that in a row, that para-jumping stunt on the motorcycle.
It's so wild.
All 5 times he actually made that jump. Like
that train scene that he did.
Yep.
The helicopter scenes that he was doing. Like
bananas. So I wonder with Tom, you know, I know we got other shit to talk about, but like, I wonder with Tom, like, I feel like at a moment in his career, he kind of like dipped into the like more art forward films. They're still big movies. Like he still did Edge of Tomorrow. He still did Interview with the
Minority
Vampire, and even Vanilla Sky was like a pretty big deal. There was one called Magnolia that I thought he was like, wow, like really jumped off the screen as like acting chops rather than just the big event, because he knows how to be a movie star for event movies. But it's different in Leonardo DiCaprio, where like Leonardo DiCaprio always tries to have something to say in his movies, even if it's in a weird artistic whatever, plus minus a few that he's done with like Quentin Tarantino and shit like that. But even those roles were pretty crazy. But do you think Tom's going to go back to that is my question. Do you think he's going to find, like, his body can't sustain too many more of these MI films? And I think this was the last one.
He'll go, my guess is that the next path for him to take, if he's going to kind of transition out of the action roles, is period pieces.
Yeah.
I think that
he's good at those.
He'll go into Old West stuff. He'll go into like really interesting stories that happened, much like The Last Samurai.
He did The Last Samurai.
You know?
He did one where he was pretended to be Irish for a long time in some film. It was not a great representation of our people.
Far and away.
Yeah. But he tried. But I like Tom Cruise as an actor.
He met Nicole Kidman.
What's that?
He met Nicole
on that film, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like Tom Cruise movies a lot. I think Tom Cruise, the individual's a bit of a enigma. We'll say politely. No Dianetics, please. But yeah, I often wonder, like, well, what's next with Tom? Because you see him in a movie like A Few Good Men. I'll put that shit on rewatch for a month. The dialogue alone in that movie is outstanding. But you know, I just wonder where he's going to go next. But so, how many megs you give that whole series? Because it's a good fun time. It's a lot of hours with Tom, but it's a good fun time.
I would say that I couldn't wait to watch each next movie. So, man, without being able to kind of cap it off with the last one, I would say 8.5 megs to the end. Yeah, nice. I think it's solid.
Yeah, the franchise in totality, I'm at 9 megs for sure, because I've been to each of them. Also, Mission Impossible 2 is where I fell in love with Thandie Newton.
That's fair.
The girl from MI2 when he was up against.
I'm familiar with Thandie.
Who's the other guy that was in that? He's really good too. He doesn't do much these days.
Not sure.
He was the main villain in that one that doubled as Tom Cruise's character. But he did another movie where he was a cop chasing down a bad guy. It was also a lot of fun.
Hold on, I'm looking. Mission Impossible. Dougray Scott.
Dougray Scott. That's our guy. He did a film that I really enjoyed too, where he's a Interpol cop and he's chasing down some sort of dude who's also a big actor. I should know this. It's really fun though. He's good. I liked him in that a lot. So
so the next thing on my list is I capped off one of the best first seasons of a TV show I've seen in a really long time. And you and I started watching this, but you got too busy and kind of fell off. And I watched it week to week, which is odd for me, but I could not wait for the next episode to come out. And now I've got my wife like absolutely hooked. I think she's like 6 or 7 episodes in. Yeah. And that's the Mobland. And we've discussed it a little bit before, but that first season caps off Chef's Kiss, and it escalates every single episode to the point where it has you on edge, like certain shows that you've watched, like Breaking Bad, or ones like Walking Dead. Once you're like 4 or 5 seasons,
sort of defines what you imagine prestige TV should define when you watch television like this. Yeah,
unpredictable, and beautifully acted. Like I would say that this is one of my favorite Pierce Brosnan roles of all time. He plays a
This is the best I've seen Helen Mirren in a long time, and I love Helen Mirren.
Dude, I hadn't even gotten to her yet. Helen Mirren is like, she is a tour de force on this show. You don't know what angle she's ever going to come from or what's going to come out of that lady's mouth, and it is always worse than you thought. And so it's wild. It's such a great show. There's things that pop out of nowhere, and you're like, did not see that coming. Holy crap. Throws the dynamic in a different direction. And Tom Hardy is the most menacing I think I've ever seen him in a film. And he doesn't really even have to do a lot, but he's menacing. He is so scary, but calming at the same time. Like, I mean, everything, like from when he played Bronson and all of his other kind of movies that he kind of plays tough guy roles in, this one takes the cake. Like, you know that if he says he's going to do something, he's absolutely going to do it, and he's going to do it with absolute precision. And it's fantastic. The whole series, every side character that they bring in really adds to the ensemble of this nutty mob family. Irish mob, totally bananas, bonkers people, and they all know it, and so does everybody else, and they use it to their advantage. And it's in, like, the end scene of this season is like, you're like, oh man, I can't wait. I cannot wait till the next one. So highly recommend it. I gave it probably nine megs, because I so thoroughly enjoyed it, to the point where the theme song that comes on before each episode is this British pop band, and like hip hop, like pop band, and it's so catchy that I've put it on my playlist, and I play it while I'm driving around, and I never, like, normally you have the skip option. I don't ever skip the opening sequence for this show. It's that good. So I really, really enjoy it. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, so it's another W from Guy Ritchie. Yeah. He can't lose right now in my mind. It also cites Anthony Byrne and Daniel Skyrin, Sirkin, and Lawrence Go as like kind of rotating directors. But yeah, man, I think I watched 3 episodes of it, and I got to get back to it. It's awesome. There's been a lot of good prestige TV series out though. Like we crushed. What was it? Landman. The whole time you were down here. Yeah, like also epic. Like everything in that was super fun. I went to the movies.
What's funny is, real quick, it's actually very similar to Landman.
Yeah,
it's basically big. In Landman, big crazy oil family that's kind of criminally connected all over the place, and the one guy they lean on to fix all the problems that put out all the fires that keep happening, and that's very similar to this premise as well. Big crime family with the one guy that they can lean on to actually put out all their fires, by Tom Hardy. Very similar premise as far as like the character driven concept of like
the fixer,
the fixer, the guy who's got to go and fix this craziness all the time.
Yeah.
And so, but
they all saw George Clooney's Michael Clayton and were like, that character arc would fit into everywhere.
What you said you saw a movie this week?
I did. I went to go see Ballerina. Ana de Armas comes out as a character in the John Wick universe, and I will spoil some. I know you're going to see this, but I won't spoil a ton. But the families within those that serve under the table are slowly being more and more described through the John Wick films, but we don't know much about any of them save for I think they're called the Budaruska, which is where John Wick comes from. So does Ana de Armas's character. She's one of the ballerinas in that little theater of assassin training stuff.
Right. The Russian stuff. Yeah.
Very clever how they tie it into John Wick, because she kind of pops up and has a scene where they cut John Wick 2 movie scenes into this movie, where it's like, this is the period of time in which those two cross paths or whatever. So Keanu comes back and does a bunch of work in this movie. He's in this movie for like 15 to 20 minutes.
Oh, no kidding.
With new content and stuff, which is really incredible, because I remember watching an interview where he was kind of like, hey, between you and me and everyone that's going to watch this interview, I don't know how many more of these movies I got in my physical body. You know what I mean? Like, this is pretty taxing work. And he has a raucous fight scene in it as well. So basically we find her under the care of the Budaruska as a orphan. How she is orphaned is by another sect of people that are loosely affiliated with the rest of the families under the table, though they themselves are not an actual family. They're kind of like renegade werewolf types of like, that's the best way to describe them in this universe. But they are allowed to stay at the Continental and respect the rules and stuff, and they have a good couple one-liners on why that is. But the main antagonist in the film is Gabriel Byrne, who's a guy I really like, and I haven't seen Gabriel Byrne in a million years. And he's a son of a bitch in this movie too. It's great. But it is exactly what you want. It is the celebration of unrelenting action and violence for no reason whatsoever, baked into a loose storyline that we love, that's correlated to a shitload of characters that we also love and enjoy. We get to see Winston. We get to see... I thought it was incredibly tasteful the way they did Winston's concierge, because he's in this movie too.
Even though the actor himself has passed away.
Correct.
Lance Reddick, I believe.
Yeah, Lance Reddick. I think that's right. But it's very brilliant the way they wove that tapestry together is very tasteful. So she's in this. She's kicking ass in a bunch of different ways. There's new weapons we haven't seen used on the human body yet. There's a dude's head that literally explodes in one scene. It's fun. It's a great goddamn time. Like, I know that she's in everything right now, and if people are getting burnt out on Ana de Armas or whatever, all right, I get it. She's also a very petite actor, and so it's very unbelievable that she would just thump on a bunch of, assassins and burly dudes. But the best part of this movie is that she has to earn it at every step of the way. Like, this is not a cakewalk for her character to win these fights. And it shows. And like the damage that is inflicted on her continues to pile up through the movie and stuff. So you're kind of like, oh, wow. And I cannot imagine that was an easy shoot for her. Even if she didn't do all her own stunts, because she's like this big. And she gets thrown through a bunch of stuff, gets hit by stuff. I mean, it's just like John Wick in that regard. So it's all the same, playing all the hits that you love from each of these movies. There's no reason not to love it. There's no reason not to see it. We get to see new scenery in different parts of the world and stuff as she goes through her storyline. The ending is pretty sick, and they should continue to expand on this world. I know that they made a TV series called The Continental. I think it was behind a paywall that I didn't have. Like, I don't subscribe to that streaming service or whatever. I think it was Peacock or some shit. But they made a mini series or a television series out of it. I don't know if it went anywhere, but it did air. Fun universe. I loved it. It's getting a full 9 megs for me. I love the John Wick universe. She's great in this role. They don't make her like, she's a gorgeous actress, but they don't make her like, super look at me pretty. She's like breaking her own toes doing ballerina stuff, and very little makeup and lots of muscles and bullets and blood and guts. It's great. I loved it. So much fun. So,
I'm hoping that that's one of the movies that they have on the plane when I come down there.
Yeah. If they do, man, it's so much fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to watch it no matter what. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the John Wick franchise. Even as much off the rails shark jumping as that series has gone, I've been 100% on board the entire time. Yeah, like from the original movie, which actually kind of was based I mean, not in reality, but a little closer to the planet than the next 3 were. But I
you can
didn't
tell,
care.
yeah, you could tell they clearly didn't expect the movie to become a massive franchise the way that it did when they released it, even though it took them insurmountable odds to get that thing actually produced and over the finish line. There's a whole documentary on it. But now that they have basically a fountain of money behind them to kind of explore the space they've created, they're doing a great job. Like, the movie starts a little slower than you want it to as far as like the interpersonal character development types of connections, but it's not without purpose. There's a ton of reason for that gets explored later in the movie, but it's action packed from open to close. Even with her backstory as a small child, there's a shit ton of action in it. Lots of fun, man. Yeah, you check it out on the plane or whenever you can. It's super fun. I loved it. It was great. It was a great watch. Easiest $9 I ever spent on a movie ticket. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, you have the word. You got
I got some gospel by Gen Z to serenade the listeners to.
That's fantastic.
Chapter 44.
Get into the word.
Eucharist. We have The Last Supper, 1498 by Leonardo da Vinci as a watercolor in here. Super, super nice.
Yeah.
They didn't frame it the best for that print, but all right. Jesus told the fam, the ops are about to throw hands with me. Parentheses, the ops were in fact planning it low key. A few days later, it was Independence Day, and Holy Bro told Peter and John to get a VIP room. When Jesus and the 12 pulled up and Sacred Blood said, "Not gonna lie, I've been looking forward to this canon event." After their pre-game meal, Jesus said, "Take this and eat this bread, for it's my body," like actually. In the same way, he took the cup and said, "Take and drink, for this is my sacred blood of the new covenant to forgive L's." Don't ever stop reposting this moment. Yet one of you is Major Sus and low-key an op. Judas said and smiled, "Don't eat all my margaritas," and left the chat to meet up with the ops for some bread. And then the mods argued over who was more based, but Holy Bro said, "Nah, fam. To be truly based, you must be a low-key real one, as I have to you." And then Jesus said, "Fam, I'm not gonna lie, y'all about to be running, for it's a canon event that I must 1v1 the op of ops." But Peter said, "Quit playing. You know I'm ride or die." And Jesus replied, "Nah, fam. You'll be running so fast, but after you pull up again, gas up your bros." Which is in a roundabout way what he said.
Wow.
And that's it. That's the Last Supper right there.
Oh, that was incredible.
This is so absurd.
We do at church, we do communion the first Sunday of every month. And so we kind of, we touch on elements of this story. You know, they try to kind of make it a unique message each time, but you cannot do the Eucharist. You cannot do, communion at all without touching on the Last Supper. You have to. It's
like a rule or something,
right? But man, I don't think I could have ever have thought that it could have been written that way, and for me to actually understand it.
Yeah,
and it was hilarious, but weirdly, uniquely beautiful. So yeah. But
well, hey, I can get you a print of that, and the next time you all do communion, you could read from the Gospel by Gen Z.
Yeah,
I'm sure
it would.
I'm sure the congregation would both love and hate it.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. We are a mixed bag of people in that particular congregation. So some would think it was funny, and some would probably turn around and walk out.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. Oh man, that's good
Dude.
stuff.
Well, yeah, that's it for this week for me. I don't know if you got anything else or to promote.
No, I will be in Las Vegas at Mad Monk Tattoo the 25th through the 1st. So we've got Friday the 13th coming up, the weekend, this upcoming weekend. That's a big holiday in the tattoo industry. So if you're in the local area, come by, say hi, come get a piece. And then Mad Monk is also doing Friday the 13th event. So, but then shortly thereafter, a week later or 10 days later, I'll be down there hanging out with you guys in the Vegas area, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna soak up some heat and do some tattoos. So come see me if you need to get tattooed. Hit me up. In the meantime, I'd love for all of you to engage with us on any of the social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, any of those, or email us. We've got and any of that, we will respond immediately. But if you have any conspiracies you want us to talk about, I'd love to hear your ideas that we could explore. But also, if you have any topics that you just generally want us to talk about, or movies you want us to see, or anything else.
Yeah,
so,
or if you're a PR firm trying to set us up with somebody to talk to, we welcome that. Give us an outline. Just don't give us hard talking points not to stray away from, because I'm gonna stray away from them on my show.
100%. Which is why we did not interview that last person.
But we'll get them. We'll get someone next time. We'll get them next time. So
for sure.
Next week, tune in. If you got a week to do it, we're hoping to land it. We're still working on it, but try your best. We think we're going to get Senator Ben Taves in, and whom else? Stephanie something?
Stephanie Fetzer of the tradfam.org.
Yep.
So
we're gonna go deep into the TradFam stuff, like we talked about a little bit today. So if you're interested in knowing more, stay tuned. We're hopeful we land that for next week. But until then, we'll see you next week.